So, I see a couple familiar faces in the crowd. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jason Nickerson. I'm a Joomla volunteer. I've been using Joomla for a little over 10 years now. I found Joomla probably the way that a lot of you maybe in the room found it. I was using PHP Nuke back in the early 2000s, and the CMS really couldn't do something that I needed for a project. So I looked for another CMS, and I was actually looking for a certain extension. I needed a real estate type of site. So I found that for Joomla, and to my surprise, just knowing a content management system before and having used PHP Nuke, I was able to dig right into Joomla and get the client site done in about a week or a week and a half. After doing that, I never looked back. I've been using Joomla for just about everything I've built, other than maybe a couple simple HTML pages. You know, I do some side work projects for friends. I've helped friends out with WordPress and things like that, but for the core, I'm 100% using Joomla. I'm currently a Capital Team contributor. I help out going out and working the Joomla booth at events like this and at other conferences. I'm also on the site showcase directory team. So if you don't have your site up on that site showcase yet, please put it up there. I'd really like to approve it for you. And I also run a software company in Tampa, Florida, and it's called Mono Software, and I have a Joomla site called JoomlaXTC.com. That's Extension and Template Club, and we've had that company for about 9 years. So, Yes. That's me. Me and my co-founder partner who is in Mexico. So I have had a good 9 years of watching the design trends and things. So I do know a little bit about what's coming and how you can really look into the future. I also do the Joomla Day Florida in Tampa, Florida. We've done 2 of them so far. Our third one is coming up in March. And if anybody's close to Florida or would like to come, we have a really great community there in Florida. But enough about me. Let's talk about spreading the love for Joomla World Conference. If you like my session, you can tweet me at jjoomler. If you don't like my session, I believe it's at Mike Demo. So you don't need a crystal ball, really, to look at the future of web design, because the future of web design is right now. Because everything that we're looking at that's happening right now with all the new components like was just talked about, and JavaScript, and just everything that's coming out at this point is fresh and new. And to actually see what's coming up on the future, you know, we have to look at what's happening right now, because the trends that happen, they don't happen overnight. You know, when we look at, you know, the Bootstrap, it took a couple years for that to come in. Look at, say, CSS preprocessors. I believe less came out in 2012, but it wasn't widely used. You know, people that I know didn't start using it to maybe 2014. So a lot of the technology that comes out is either code that needs to be adapted and people need to take a look at it and see if it's going to be well maintained, or it's based on technologies that come out that we have to maintain for. But the one thing that never changes is content. Content is always going to be king. If you've been looking around at websites currently, there's a very big push for minimal design. And that's because it just focuses on the content. And looking back, if you look back to, say, 20 years ago on the internet, when things were just basically some text and some links on the side, and you compare those side to side, the new designs that are very minimal, they're very the same. There's just some updates to them, so maybe the fonts look better and things. So really the idea is that the content is more important than the design. But the design gives you credibility, but the focus is the content. Because when I go to a website and I'm looking at something, if I follow a link and go somewhere and say I'm on my phone, I don't care about their design. I just click the button that says show me a reader view. You know, so it really is the content that matters. So I want to showcase some of the emerging trends in technology that are coming up right now and into the near future. Probably this stuff is going to be valid maybe 3 to 5 years from now. First thing is website builders. You know, we heard about that in the beginning with Robert Jacoby. Website builders such as Wix and Squarespace They are taking up a large market share of do-it-yourself websites. But that's the key to it. It's really mainly do-it-yourself websites. These are clients that we probably don't want to have. Number one, they don't know exactly what they want because they went ahead and chose this simple solution they saw advertised online and got sold this product. Number two, they probably don't have the money to pay you for your time, because that's the main thing that I see from these people that want to build their own sites with Wix or Weebly. They wouldn't be doing that if it was $99 a month, if it was $1,000 a month. They're doing it because it's, $29 a month, $9 a month. So they don't have the money to spend on it, and it's probably their first project. So it is taking a whole client base away from us, though, because the client base it's taking, really what they're selling people for small businesses, and they're selling people for some medium-sized shops. So when it comes to the individual and the small business, that part of web design is getting really crushed by this. So if you're just a web designer and you don't do any other things such as programming or UX or have other things, you're starting to see the trend where everything is moving in and there's less and less to do. But I don't think this is such a scary thing, again, because these maybe aren't the clients that you want to have. Some of my worst clients were people that didn't have a lot of money and they wanted everything. And I don't know how many clients you've had that said, oh, I only have this much money, but do this for me, and then, okay, well, I need this done, and oh, well, no, I can't give you more money, but I'll send a lot of people your way. And well, I don't want a lot of people. I want to do your site and get it done and hand it off to you. So what I think we're going to see with website builders is that they're going to continue to grow, and they're going to continue to take advancements. I know that Squarespace, even a year ago, was advertising they wanted a CMS expert. They wanted somebody that knew WordPress, that knew Drupal. Funny they didn't mention Joomla, or I would have said, okay, I can do that, but I'm very interested in Joomla. But they're really looking at the software. So you're going to see these page builders move forward. The good thing about it, though, is that they're never going to be able to solve every solution, and that's where we come in. Right now, I feel that they're spending a ton of money. You see ads all the time. Build a better site with Wix, Squarespace. I don't know if in Italy if they're doing that, but in the US, you can't get into a car in a cab inside of New York without seeing maybe an ad for Squarespace. Wow, we can't compete with that. But what we can do is we can become very aware of what these things do, what they don't do, and we can work our business around it, because somebody that has started a website with, say, Wix.com, and they just started it, but it was a great idea. It wasn't something they had a lot of money, but it was a great idea. And 2 years from now, that idea, they have to move. They need some bigger solution. That's where we come in. And that's really, it's going to be more like a proving ground, okay? Sure, somebody just has a personal site and all it's going to do is sit there. Even maintenance for that kind of thing is not really needed. We can charge them a little money on that, but the reality is we need to figure out how we can take Wix and Weebly and convert it to a Joomla site, because then what we have is if we can get a client from them, they already have their content. People have a really hard time giving us content in a lot of cases. So the content's there. They're probably financed at this point. So I don't really see that the website builders are going to hurt us in the long run, because we can always provide something they can't do. The next thing I want to talk about is mobile templates. We were just at the keynote talking about responsive design and how that can change. Mobile templates came out around 2010. Everybody was creating a mobile template for a website. And then 2012, it was maybe two or 3 years that was around. And then it became responsive web design. And nobody cared anymore about mobile templates, because now I can have a website look good on any device. And that's fine. But does every website need to look the same on every device? That's where I think we're going to see a big return with mobile templates, is because people like the look of maybe, say, an app. Now, this doesn't matter for, say, a site that might be a blog that doesn't have a lot of content on the home page and sidebars and things like that. But the problem that we face with responsive design is we have so much content and we're throwing it all onto a device, and then it's scrolling, and some of that content doesn't need to be there. But all we're doing is using, say, the Bootstrap utility class that says, mobile hide. But what does that do? It has a display none. So that content's still being rendered, so it's taking longer just for that content that you're not showing there. And I think here in the future, people they're very on demand. They're going to want this website to come up really quick, and they're going to want to get in and see the content that they want. And I think what we can do at this point is we can actually start designing mobile templates that really act like apps. Because the best view that I've seen recently are on some of the newer apps that I've downloaded. But the problem with apps for clients is that apps, number one, it takes a long time to build an app for a client in a lot of cases. Number two, it's very expensive for them. So if you can provide them, say, a mobile template that's only shown on a phone, because it's a very different deal when you're looking at a phone and you're looking at a tablet. So you can create several different templates for it, but a mobile view that actually looks like an app as far as having app buttons and a very app style thing, because every website needs to be responsive. They need to look good on a mobile, but they need to be mobile friendly. And that's the problem in a lot of cases when we're designing sites and we're just saying, hey, well, it looks good on every screen. But is it really mobile friendly? The next thing I think we're going to see is touch-based interfaces. Right now, touch-based interfaces are everywhere. When you look at your tablets, when you look at your phone, and now look at the computers that are coming out. Just about every computer now, except for Macintosh, has a touchscreen version of it. So how are we actually utilizing the touchscreen? Well, we're not very much. Everything scrolls vertically. We're very used to on our phone being able to swipe left, swipe right, have that kind of interaction. So what are we doing to design for that? Is anybody designing for gestures or anything right now with their site? No, nobody is. So this is something we need to look at, because there are slideshows for Joomla now that, you can touch it and it does that, but what about the full interaction? What about the, changing the page, okay? Instead of your pagination, you do a swipe. And I think the line between the desktops and as far as laptops and even some desktops, not widescreen ones, but I think the line is going to be blurred, where we're going to have a very similar experience on the mobile to the computer, because everybody likes touching it. Everybody likes expressing and gestures and things. So I think that the future is going to be very much, we're going to be touching our computers. Now, this one I like, yeah.
I was going to say, but won't that depend upon the operating system developers? I mean, the people, that allows it to happen.
Right.
Like OS, we can't do it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. There's going to have to be a standardization of that, and that's what we need. Because right now we can't do that with Joomla. I mean, the page changing and whatever, because we're loading the page every time. It's not something that we can load up 5 different pages on one and just go, okay, when you slide it, it goes like this. So there are challenges to that, and that's something that is going to have to be figured out. This is in the the next 5 years looking at it. And this is a hamburgerless bottom navigation. So how many people here have had to explain what the hamburger menu is, either to a client, to a parent, or a relative? Okay, yep, a couple people. So I see this all the time. My mother said, well, how do I calls me up, I'm on my phone, I need to find something. Where is it's those little lines there on the top, okay? So people have had a problem with the hamburger menu, finding it, because not so many people we still have a whole generation that isn't that web savvy, and we're building websites for people, and my mother still loves to shop, so we need to build it for her. There's other problems with the design with the hamburger menu. How many people, when they build a website for a client, they go ahead and say, okay, well, I'm going to have a responsive menu here. What's going to happen is when we go down to the viewport or whatever, we're going to maybe shrink the logo, and then all of a sudden we're using the Bootstrap responsive or something, and then we're going to have the hamburger menu over on the right-hand side. Is that pretty standard? You have your logo and then the hamburger? Okay, so that seems wrong to me. It's even like that on the Joomla conference site, because I can't reach it with one hand. I've really looking at the hamburger menu is almost better over here, so you can reach to it, because I have to have 2 hands. I can't really navigate very well with one hand. Of course, I do have a larger phone, but they're getting larger. And what I'm proposing is that the top navigation is pretty much so useless. Having it up there, because why are you taking up that real estate on the top? You're taking it up because you need to have a menu up there, and maybe you need to have a logo. Okay, so we have a fixed header then with a logo and a menu. So we have that whole real estate there taken for no purpose other than a logo and the hamburger menu. That could be scrolled. And what I'm proposing is that bottom navigation is going to be the future for mobile. Right now, if you look at it, why do you think that any app that you open, like social network apps such as Facebook or LinkedIn, they've got all of your simple navigation on the bottom, where it's really easy to move for your hand. I also think that bottom navigation is going to start popping up even in new design for websites. I mean, we've seen it, maybe people like to put it at the bottom and then it's fixed until you scroll and it jumps up. But I think bottom navigation is something that's kind of in the future, because when it comes to us designing and thinking about things, it's not good to break standards. But the thing about that is we have to take risks. If you don't take risks, then we're not going to move forward. Nothing ever happened without taking a risk, especially like here in Joomla. Well, let's go ahead and do Joomla. Let's see if we can get all these volunteers together. Let's do the first Joomla World Conference, and now we're at what, 6 of them? So you have to take risks. And in design, for me, some of the craziest thing that happened with design was, me doing something and then making a mistake and going, wait a minute, that looks great. And how many people have made a mistake and then built off that mistake because it was something that they didn't know really looked good? Nobody? Well, that's one. Yeah, you have. Yeah. So, and that's looking back again at those web builders and stuff. That's something that is not that's not going to happen with those, because a lot of them are based upon just some certain designs that people made, and it's drag and drop. And looking into the future of this, web AI, you just upload your photos to this website and it puts them in some order and does it like this. The computer's doing that. The computer's not going to make mistakes. Therefore, we're never going to move forward on that. So taking risks as humans is what we can do. Computers, they won't do that. They won't make a mistake. And this one, do we all remember what happened at the main session? CSS Grid and Flexbox. So is everybody in the room here, are you using it or have used it? Okay, again, yeah, CSS Grid and Flexbox is really where it's at right now for layouts. The thing that wasn't explained at the keynote was the reason that this is even better in a lot of cases is it's just cleaner code. I mean, with Bootstrap, we're still floating to the left with this much, and then there's clears, there's floats, and everything of that is involved. You don't have that in the Flexbox. You don't have to go ahead and open this up and say, okay, I want this, and then worry about floats. It's all fluid. So the interesting point about the CSS Grid and Flexbox is they both do literally kind of the same thing, but in different ways, and each of them does something that the other doesn't do. The really nice thing about it is that you can use them together. There's no conflict there. So you can do a container with the CSS Grid and start using Flexbox. So in the future, it'll be interesting to see, if there's a clear winner here, or, we might just continue to have both of these as a standard. Another thing we need to start looking at is web notifications. Was anyone at the session earlier today about web notifications? Okay. Yeah, you need to look at that when the videos come out for Joomla World Conference. I go to more and more sites nowadays on my laptop and on my home computer, and it comes up, would you like to receive notifications from this website? Okay, yes. Okay, so that's cool, because we've been doing that on our phones for years. We're all very, very good at communication on the phone. My phone has probably messaged me and given me a notification probably 6 to 8 times while I've been standing here. So for the web, that's something that is going to be, it's really a future, because it's a way that we can keep our users informed. And I see that in the maybe near future, it might even replace email newsletters, but at the same point with it, you have to be very sparingly, because, you can go ahead with really tick somebody off when you're doing a newsletter and spamming them. So there are things about that, but, I think the future will be with notifications. Chatbots are another very interesting thing that's happening now. because this is going to change the way that, we actually relate to our customers online when they're on our site. What's happening with the whole AI aspect of it, pretty much so using some canned statements and some canned answers and then putting some logic, it's moving ahead really fast. So the real question about chatbots, is really the conversation that you want to have, especially if you put a chatbot on your site. Know your customer and know, how to talk to them and how this thing is going to talk to them if you're not actually talking to them. Website accessibility. How many people build 100% accessible websites at this point? One person, okay? I'm not that guy. I'm default here. I don't think about that. My main thing that I've thought about over, say, the last 10 years was first, does it work on IE? Does it work on this browser? Does it work on that browser? Why doesn't it work on this browser? Then, maybe into the phone range. Okay, so does it work on this phone? Does it work on that phone? Does it work on that phone? So the last thing I really wanted to do was look at another standard that I had to go, okay, what else do I have to do here? But this is very, very important for the future of the internet. There's already the WCAG standard. So all users can have equal access, and it's moving forward. Governments are looking at it. I'm sure we all know now that Chrome's going to punish you if your site isn't mobile friendly. Well, imagine this, how much you're going to take into that. So it's there's not a lot to do in it, but you have to think about who's going to be viewing the site and look at it and really cater it to their experience. And if you want to know more about this, tomorrow in the Tech Joomla room, or actually on Sunday, there's the session Become Accessible. And that's from 1400 to 1530. I think it's got 3 different speakers talking about it. I'm definitely going to check that out. Another thing that's moving forward still is JavaScript. There's new libraries all the time. There's new cool animation stuff. I mean, I've been amazed at some of the 3JS animation things. They do a great 3D representation. We heard about React. If you're not familiar with React, that's basically a view for basically like an HTML type of view for JavaScript. Angular is the whole framework, which gives you more of an MVC model for JavaScript and working with HTML. So I don't see JavaScript, like we saw jQuery and things are slowing down a little bit. These smaller libraries are popping up everywhere. Another thing that isn't totally web design related, but it is related to you and your clients, is augmented reality. Augmented reality is a lot more than just Pokemon. There's a couple websites now that offer to do it for you and show you how easy it is. You can download their app. I think there's Orisma or Orisma.com. It's by HP, and in 10 minutes you can do this. And I went to a conference, and my friend Robbie from that does Fabric, she did a whole session on augmented reality, and I was blown away looking at how this is going to change in our future. Like, I might take a tour here. Am I going to have a tour guide? With augmented reality, you can just walk through a museum, hold your phone up to a statue, and it'll tell you all about it. There could be a video. Some museums you go in now, you might, if it's a walking tour alone, you push a button, somebody talks to you. It's all on your phone. Imagine, people like to do ghost tours. You can take a ghost tour of an old building or whatever, and then, hey, the ghost is right there when you look at the hallway. So, I mean, there's going to be many really interesting things, especially with, marketing and education. And, we're really probably going to interact with augmented reality in everyday life, something that we really need to do. WebVR, that's another near future thing that's coming up. WebVR is here right now. We see people with glasses on all the time and interacting. You can see the cloud access booth and do some VR with Jothan. And right now, you can do it on the web, and you don't have to have cameras. You can do incredible 3D renderings that are touch sensitive. You can do it with your mouse, with touch, or it's going to take things really to the next level. Right now in the interim, it's going to be great for maybe showing products, or maybe you're doing a house tour, maybe you've got an architect that wants to show something off. Very easily you can do a 3D rendering and do a whole 3D view. But in maybe 5 years from now, I think we're going to even move into a more of immersive experience. Now you can put the glasses on and you can surf the internet. You can do your hands this and do the internet. But what's going to happen in 5 years might be that return to the fact that there's this graphical interface that you're going into a website and you're absorbed into it, and there might be a lot of need for that, not for like big content for blogs or whatever, but this is a really new field that's coming out. And again, there are online tools that you can look up and you can take a little demo and do something in 10 minutes and put it together and go, okay, I understand it, and start working on the future of that. And I save the best for last. This is going to be huge. How many people know about the vocal interface and search with web? Okay, nobody. How many people talk to their phone? Okay, right now you can talk to your phone. Just about every computer now has a voice system in it. I think Amazon has a little scary box that listens to you and you can order pizza on it. Google just made one. So we're very much so getting used to talking to our devices. And this really shows since like 2014, 1 in 10 queries went through speech. Siri in 2015 had 1 billion requests per week through speech. Then when you move up with to 2016, Android, 1 in 5 searches on mobile in the US were voice, and it's growing. And it's estimated in 2020, 50% of the searches are going to be through images or speech. And this says a lot, because it's, again, going to accessibility. This is something that talking to the computer and talking to the website is great. But from a customer standpoint, the basics start with a search. When you go to the website, there's a little speaker and you put on it, now I'm searching for black glasses. I'm doing this or that. And then we'll move into more vocal interfaces of, navigating the website and more. But everywhere that I've been in the last year, I've heard a little bit about this. And just over maybe the last 3 or 4 months, I've been to quite a few conferences, and I've heard that, the top level CEOs, they want to know what's going on in search, because everybody wants to know what's happening with the voice interface and search. And this is one thing that we can all look forward to. Joomla X. If you don't know about what the future is for Joomla, find the guys with the Joomla X. I know Marco is here, and he did a talk last year at Joomla World Conference in Vancouver, and the outlook is great. The ideas that are coming in for the future of Joomla are incredible, and if we had those right now, we'd be amazed. So we need to actually open the conversation with these people and say, okay, I want this right now. I would like to have 2 components on one page. I would like to get rid of, let's not worry about modules, let's do this. I would like to be able to do some drag and drop, but we as a community need to actually get out there and say, hey, yes, we want this feature, and push it forward, because there's a lot of talk going on behind these doors here, and everybody goes, oh, would that be good? Would that be good? Would that be? What is it? It's 5 people. The whole community needs to be involved to really push the future of Joomla forward. And I'll close with never stop learning. That's the thing. If you are a UX designer and that's what you do, start to learn some JavaScript. Learn or maybe learn a little bit of coding, because you're going to need it in the near future. If you are a coder and you do PHP, take some UX. So when you go ahead and build that site, you can actually make the user interface that you're putting in look right and actually work, instead of just going, oh, it looks good to me, I coded it. And that's that's the future for us. You know, I didn't start speaking till a couple of years ago, and I'm still working on my talking and getting out there and instructing people. And I was never a public speaker, never wanted to do it, but I was really passionate about Joomla and said I'd like to do some workshops. So I started with workshops, and then I spoke at just about every Joomla day in America, and this is my second World Conference, and I'm not that comfortable with it, but I keep pushing myself out there because this is something in my skill set. I'm always trying to increase what I can actually do and what I can offer, you know, in my business. Thank you. And questions? How to put a vocal search inside of Joomla? Maybe next year. I will have that for you. That would be a good thing to know.
Can I just mention that your presentation is very nice. I like the design and the background. You can see the text, and I think you're a great speaker. One of the best so far today.
Thank you, thank you. No, I've done very minimal slides in a lot of cases, but this was kind of the future of web. Had the word design in it, so I figured it had to be pretty. At least it would be pretty. That's because you can talk. I mean, I came over here with some jet lag. Who knows how this was going to go? At least I knew the slides were going to look pretty. So, thank you so much. So, if you'd like to contact me, it's my direct email on the community at Joomla. You can also tweet to me at jjoomler.